All right, Nick, let's talk about the Oregon Ducks, the team coming fresh off of the huge win over Utah. Absolutely dismantled that one. No, they didn't have their starting quarterback, but still, you got to beat someone down when they are down, and Oregon did just that. Absolutely dominating performance by them. And the defense looked really good. But, Nick, we have a breaking news story here that shows that this defense potentially could get even better in the coming seasons. Yes, they have picked up a 5-star edge rusher in Elijah Rushing. He is committed to Oregon today, Monday, October 30th. So I think this is going to be big time for the Ducks going forward. The first big time recruit they've gotten in a little while. I think this opens the floodgates of the Dan Lanning recruiting pipeline, getting some of these other big time players to look at Oregon because of their big time performances this season. But let's get into the article and talk about all of this on the other side. This, of course, is from over on The Athletic. It says 5-star edge rusher Elijah Rushing committed to Oregon on Monday, 3 weeks after backing off his pledge to hometown Arizona Wildcats. Oregon was absolutely ruthless with the way it ended the 2023 cycle. It landed some high-level prospects at the 11th hour, including 4-star edge rusher Mateo Ugalagale and 4-star quarterback Austin Novosad. The Ducks are recruiting like an SEC program, and Rushing is the first 5-star prospect in Oregon's 2024 class, but it's continuing the trend of the Ducks being the West Coast bully in the realm of talent accumulation. Of course, players with rushing skill set could be the literal difference between wins and losses in the future, but stepping on Arizona's neck while landing this process is just brutal for the Wildcats. Nick, I think I absolutely agree with this article. Oregon has been brutal and ruthless, cutthroat in the recruiting, and it is paying off. Dan Lanning is coming out. He's getting all of the guys and showing that Oregon is absolutely the place to be if you are a big-time recruit, especially edge rushers. Have produced quite a lot of good edge rushers lately. But, Nick, I want to know what you think about this one. But Oregon fans, going up this week against Cal should be a win. But we want to know in the comments below, what do you think the final score of the Ducks versus the Golden Bears is going to be? Let us know in the comment section below. But Nick, what do you think about this move, this absolutely massive pickup for Oregon?
So I think the notion recruiting like an SEC team is actually a very good point. And one SEC team in particular, one team that Dan Lanning, of course, is very familiar with, and that's the Georgia Bulldogs. Dan Lanning is taking the focus of building up a dominant defensive line as he prepares to head to the Big Ten as they finish off their run in the Pac-12. And I tell you what, they're doing a phenomenal job of it. According to one recruiting service, this was the Oregon Ducks' first 5-star recruiting class. But if you look at 24/7 Sports, they have Aiden Breland, who was another earlier October commit to Oregon that was also a 5-star. Some other organizations have him as a 4-star, but either way, a top recruit, also an interior defensive lineman to pair with an edge here in Rushing. This is an Oregon Ducks team led by Dan Lanning. They are following the SEC model. And it's one of those things I always thought was interesting that programs outside the SEC didn't try to emulate, because it's not that it was incredibly complex. Nick Saban did it in Alabama for a number of years. We see it with Kirby Smart in Georgia. They say, okay, focus on the defensive line, win that area so much. You obviously want to focus and get good quarterbacks and receivers and running backs and all that. But, there's a lot of great defensive linemen, certainly on the West Coast. There's been a bevy of talent, especially around the California and Arizona area for the last decade or so. But the fact is, a lot of schools, especially on the West Coast, are so obsessed with the quarterback play, they'll let a lot of these guys go back east. Oregon's not letting that happen. They're handling their business on the West Coast, or in Arizona in this case, and they're getting top flight defensive linemen. And I think that will translate big time into the future, because when they have to play more physical style of football, love the Pac-12, but the Big Ten is a different kind of game. They're going to need to be beefier up front. They're going to need to be more aggressive up front. There's not going to be as many 50 to 40 scores when you play Southern Cal, for example. You're going to play a lot of Michigans and a lot of Wisconsins that are very happy with the score being 20-10, right? It's going to be completely different stylistically, and you need to have the guys up front that can handle that. And again, we talk about it all the time. Programs that do things smart for the long term, like Oregon is doing, they don't just recruit for today, they recruit for where they're going to be in the future. Dan Lanning and company is looking at the Big Ten right around the corner. They're like, okay, we don't want to recruit like a Pac-12 team. We want to recruit like a Big Ten team. That's what they're doing, and they're doing it while playing in the Pac-12. So they get a kind of a double whammy there. They get to outsmart all their opponents on the West Coast while preparing for the Big Ten. Great job by Dan Lanning and company. He's one heck of a recruiter. And again, Ducks fans, you guys look really good this year. Strong chance to make the college football playoff. But based on what we're seeing in the recruiting game so far, this is not going to be a one-hit, one-year flash in the plan. You've set yourselves up very nicely for the long term.
Yeah, Nick, I would agree with everything you're saying there. This Ducks team looks great for the future. But if we think about the future of this season as we run down the list, Cal, very winnable game. Southern Cal, I think they probably win that one pretty easily too. Arizona State has been feisty, and Oregon State at the end of the year will be interesting. But I think this team has the ability to string together some more impressive wins. And I think this edition of the first, potentially second 5-star guy on this recruiting trail, I think if you finish out this season undefeated, I think we're going to see much, much more talented players find their way into Oregon's arms, because I think they have opportunity here. 2 top 25 teams into the season, go into those, win them, show you're an absolutely dominant program. Moving over to the Big Ten, you are the place to be. I'm excited to see all the talent that Oregon is about to drum up.